All right, this morning I'm getting ready to go. Got my gloves out this morning because it's pretty cold. I had to put the windshield up because it's all covered with mist and rain from last night. We had heavy rain at the end of the day and the wind's up to 30 miles an hour. So I had two anchors out. I put a stern anchor out here to hold the stern, I should say hold the bow to the waves, because there was a reflection coming off the north side of this harbor and coming down into this little cove I'm in. I was well protected, but I was getting a little bit of a roll. So I put out a stern anchor for that. Right now I'm going to drop back, pull up that anchor, and then we'll pull up the bow anchor. So I'll get the engine started and let that run, get warmed up. Be right back. I let out about 20 feet of line of road, I should say, to allow me to set that stern anchor. And now I'll be pulling that up. Trying to keep it warm inside, so I'm keeping the doors closed. And now I'll just pull this anchor. Don't have a cleat yet. I need to mount one over here someplace to allow me to work with this anchor a little better. But in the meantime, we'll just work with what we have. I just tied it to the seat because that's a pretty firm mount. Kind of a muddy bottom here, so I'm hoping that this anchor is not too muddy. Stuck pretty good. Not coming out very easy. Well, that's why. There's a big chunk of mud and weeds on it. Boy, that's some sticky stuff there. Well, it's not completely clean, but it's good enough, I guess. Just throwing the chain here in the bucket. That was pretty muddy. Not encouraging for the other one. Hopefully it's not as bad, but we'll see. Go up here and pull this out. That wind was strong, so it makes these anchors dig in. And that Danforth, it was perfect conditions for nice and muddy, and so it did the job. Kept that stern where I wanted it, and even when we got the highest winds, it really didn't affect me negatively at all. So it ended up being a very peaceful anchorage. I'm not so hopeful for tonight's anchorage because it's open to the southwest, that big one, the one where I'm supposed to go. I may not go there. I'm going to check out a small one that's hopefully going to be enough protection for what wind we're going to have. So we'll see. Well, we're coming to the moment of truth here. How well that, more of a Bruce style. It's a Lumar, but I think they bought out Bruce. Yeah, I can see it down there anyway. Yeah, we got mud on it too, but it cleared off a little easier. All right, we're secure. On our way. Well, first thing I need to do though is I hope that the seas are flat and that this early morning rise is not fruitless. We'll soon find out. We're only going about 5.7, I think it is, 5'7". So it shouldn't take long to get there. Trying to take advantage of favorable winds here before I get stuck here another day. But we'll just have to see when we get out there. Well, then I forgot to get my remote again. All right. We got our remote. Yeah, it looks like there's rain over there. We weren't supposed to get rain today. So I may have to put the windshield back down. Well, I'm not feeling any swell. That's a good sign. At least not from the south. Now there's a reef out here I need to miss, so we'll better go a little more to the right. I don't want to catch that thing. I didn't see it on the drone, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Right now it seems pretty flat, but thank you, Lord. Thank you for this flat sea. Howly weather. It's nice to know that I can get there at least if this weather holds, that is. And we hope that it does. The course keeping on the autopilot though is not as good as it was before. I don't know what it seems. I can't quite figure out what the problem is, or that I'll try it right now and see if it'll hold here. But so far it's been tending to hunt a little bit too much. Behind me there was some rain a bit ago. It looks like it stopped now, but yeah, it's not holding the course. So we'll just use the direct control method. I'm going to put some gloves on because it's cool on my hands, especially when the hands get wet from pulling the anchor. Except I don't know if I can. Well, it's going to be pretty tough to control this. And I'll probably turn the camera off here in a bit so we're not using up too much battery. Yeah, it was a windy day yesterday. Had winds up to 30, probably gusts it was higher than that. I was in a very tight and safe anchorage. I'm hoping that the one that we get today will be better. I'm going to turn you off for now. And all right, I don't have time to mess with the other camera today. We got rain threatening, and I need to get into this anchorage. I don't know if the winds are going to come up or not, but it doesn't feel good. Clouds don't look good. It just looks like a nasty day. I just hope that this anchorage will provide enough protection. And I can't see very well because I got the windshield up because of the possible rain. So it wasn't supposed to be any rain today, but what's new? Well, I'm hoping that this anchorage will be protective enough. There's a big island to the south. You'll probably see that in some of the pictures later, but that might help block some of that south wind that they talked about later today. It's not going to be strong, but I don't want to have an unpleasant setting in the anchorage in here. So, but I think it was timely to get down here early. I was moving before the sun came up, and that was a good thing. I just saw two boats leave here. I think they're the same two boats that those fishermen that I saw earlier. So I'm glad they left at least. They're heading out. Looks like they're heading back to home base, probably to High Hill Marina, I'm guessing. And for me, I'm just going to go in here and see if I can find an anchorage. Still threatening rain all around. It's just not a very pleasant day. I thought it was going to clear up and kind of be sunny today, but it doesn't appear to be. And I thought I might cheat and use a little indentation up the island here, but there's too much swell coming off the north right down the edge of the island, so that's not going to work. So we'll go in here. It's a little bit open to the south, but we'll have to make it do. We can always use the stern anchor again if we have to keep it aligned with the wind. But you can see behind me there's kind of a little swell coming off the lake there from the northeast, which is not helping things. You can see the boat movement there now. That's from that swell. So we'll be out of that at least, thankfully. And maybe the forecast will be wrong. It's not the first time that they've not been correct. It's already pretty coming up shallow, 22 feet. Forgot to put my tracking on for the Navionics. Every day I forget something. As deliberate as I try to be, you still forget things. So many things. I got to make a checklist, I think, to prevent that sort of thing happening, because it happens all the time. And I had time this morning. I wasn't rushing, but I still forgot things. All right, let's see what we got. Do I go all the way up in there, or do I tuck in here? I don't know. there's options around, but I don't like being there either because that's pretty open to the east. Not supposed to be any east winds, but I would think this anchorage would have been rough last night if they were in here, because that wind would have been putting waves right in here. So they'd have just followed around the island. 10, 12 knot wind is quite different than a 30 knot wind. Amount of wave action. All right, we're getting 10 feet. We'll go up in here as far as we can get. Okay, I can see bottom here, so it's getting shallow fast. 5.8, 5.9, 5.4. Probably better think about turning around here. See where we're at. Kind of a sandy beach here. That's interesting. Very interesting. All right, well, we'll come around. And which way is the wind blowing here? Looks like it's blowing still from the north, so. All right, I think I better go back out now. This is close enough. Feet. 3.8 feet. Let's see what we got here. Get this tightened up a little bit on this anchor. Okay, I'll put it slow back and go up and check and see what I got. All right, it's holding. A lot of work to get this anchored here. Well, good morning, folks. Been sitting here in this new anchorage for a couple hours now. I left before sunrise this morning to take advantage of a light wind window that was existed. Didn't know how long that would last. So I moved about 6 miles. There's a little bit of leftover swell from yesterday's high winds we had winds up to 30 miles per hour, and that swell is still left over coming into this particular anchorage. Fortunately, the wind has switched around a little bit to the southwest, and that's got the boat oriented a little better for the bow to ride those swells when they come into the anchorage here. Interesting thing is the water temperature here is about 45 degrees. I don't know why it's so cold. You know, springs could explain that, I suppose, a little bit, but that's pretty cold. Not a very good anchorage in that it has some openings to the south and southeast. So there is a potential here for, if the wind is contrary, and there will be some this afternoon, not real high, but it could get a little bit more rambunctious in here than I would like. We'll have to see how that works out. It's a good sand or muddy bottom, so the holding ground is good. Otherwise, I'm going to try to hang out here. I looked like there might be a chance of making another jaunt, another move today, later in the afternoon. But the wind has been so squirrely to figure out. They show it being south and southwest, and it goes northwest, and it goes south, and then up and down. It goes to 15, then it comes back to 6. It doesn't make any sense. Normally, when you have a system move through, you have changing winds, and both velocity and direction. Well, but it usually is relatively constant change. It's not a up and down and up and down and all over the compass. So to try to predict, when to make the next move, because I can't take anything, any big waves. So moves have to be dictated by the wind and the wave action. Fortunately today, I was pretty much coming to the south from the last anchorage where I was holed up in those strong winds, and that this morning the winds were out of the northwest, so I was coming with the wind and what wave action that was building up. There wasn't much. That helped a lot because I was going with the wind. If you go with the waves and with the wind, that's usually a smoother ride, and it certainly was today. It had that potential of turning south on me really quick, and so to speak. The skies were pretty angry looking. There was some rain around, and I thought, it could increase really fast. So I kind of hustled down here. I wanted to take it easy to help build up my charge on my house battery and the starting battery. The more I thought about it, no, I better not lollygag here because this could change in a hurry. So I kept moving, kept it up around 7 miles an hour, and got down here okay. And then the winds seem to have moderated, and now they've switched, as I said, to the south-southwest. So we'll see what they do this afternoon. It's possible I could make a second move today. It's kind of a strategic thing here. I've got so many moves to make before I get back to home base, High Hill Marina. I have plenty of time yet. I've noticed the weather change the last 5 to 6 days has gotten to be pretty much windier and much more unpredictable in terms of direction, and less windows to move. When I see an opening, I feel like I need to take it because I don't know when another one's going to come. I've already had to hole up 2 days yesterday on the last anchorage and a couple anchorages before that for 2 days because of winds. I can't do too many waiting days in anchorages. I need to move when I can move. Today, if I do move, it's just a small little island called Harbor Island, and that's about all it is a harbor. It's a small island, and it's a small harbor, and it's about as open as this one is to the south and southeast. So it's not the best deal, but it's about 8 miles, so it would take me, just under a couple of hours to get there. That is the second to the last leg to the next big island. The biggest island is Shakespeare, which is pretty much straight south of here. So I've got 2 legs to go to get to that island, and that island I could settle on for a little bit because basically it's 1 leg then to High Hill Marina, about a 10-mile leg. So I could hang around there for a few days to kill some time, and then watch for a good window and then move. But anyway, that's kind of what's on my mind. Doing a lot of reading. Already read a little bit out of Gray Owl this morning. And I finished up my ebook last night, House Divided by Jack Mars. And now today I'm starting another book by William Kent Kruger. I forget the name of it, but starting that one today because it's going to expire pretty soon. I didn't want to let that go. Put a priority on that rather than reading a paperback or something. Otherwise, nothing particular new. I'm not expecting to see a lot of wildlife here because this island isn't really big. There could be moose on it, but I haven't seen any sign yet to indicate that. And I'm not sure I would come here if I was a moose. It's pretty small, and I don't think there's a lot here for them in terms of habitat. With that, we'll talk maybe a little bit more later. I'm sorry I didn't talk yesterday. I kind of got distracted with planning for the winds, putting out a second stern anchor to help keep the bow to the wave action, which worked. That was very successful. I was very happy with that. So I had a smooth night's rest. It was, in spite of all the wind, my harbor was, my anchorage, I should say, was very secure and quiet. And I was in a perfect wind shadow, big tall trees blocking the south wind, and it kept it really quiet in the anchorage there. So everything else has been going pretty good. I haven't had any big mechanical issues. I've had a couple of issues with the throttle sticking, and that was my own fault with the new autopilot. The cables got caught up in the tiller, and that caused some issues, but I soon figured it out. And then I had a leak with propane. I thought I was smelling dead fish. Well, it was rotten eggs instead, you know, the smell of propane. And I'm not sure, but I removed I had a pressure gauge on there, and I suspected it was leaking, the gauge itself, or some part of the fittings. So I removed that and then went directly just to hook the hose directly to the tank, and that seems to fix that. I do have an alarm on board, but the alarm didn't go off, so there wasn't any big danger, but it certainly could over time if that kept building up. So I'm glad I caught that particular issue. And I've used my stern anchor twice now. I've actually laid it out here earlier today, but I found out it wasn't working very well with the wind direction that we had. Now I could probably set it, and I may do that just to make sure I'm covered in case the winds build up a little bit here this afternoon. So that's about it for now, and we'll talk maybe later this afternoon. We'll see how that goes. Good evening, folks. Thought I'd talk to you one more time here today. It's been an interesting day. The weather's been more like October. There's been squalls going through all day long. Tried to fly the drone there after noon sometime, and I was up flying, and all of a sudden a squall came through while I was flying. Ended up had to bring it in the middle of the rain because it wasn't going to stop. I thought it was just going to be a shower, but it just kept pouring down. And so I brought the drone in. It didn't hurt anything, but it just surprised me. And I was out listening to an audiobook in the aft deck here at 1.2 during the day, and the same thing happened. I'm out there, just the sun's shining, and the next minute it's pouring down rain. And I had to scramble to get all my camera and the binoculars and get it out of the rain. And then another time I was up on had the solar panel trying to regenerate my backup solar, because I use that to they recharge the drone batteries as well as my laptop. I looked out, and all of a sudden my solar panel goes over the bow, and so I had to quick jump out there, and I think that I hurt my Achilles tendon trying to get out there in a hurry. I managed to get over the side and grab it before it sank. So I mean, I just was one thing after another today. And the weather, I thought I might make a second leg today if the weather turned better. Sorry, I had to stop there momentarily because there was a squall going through again just off to the south, and it was pretty nasty looking. I thought I better take a picture because that was almost a roll cloud going through. Anyway, it's been very challenging today. I think I mentioned I was going to try to make another leg. In late afternoon, it looked like it might calm down a little bit. But the more I looked, I realized I couldn't do that. And unfortunately, when I look at the forecast tomorrow, it doesn't look very good. Unless something changes, I may not be able to move again for 2 days. So I may be in this anchorage a couple days. It's not a very good anchorage either. It's open to the south, southeast. There's no winds forecast for that direction, but even southwest winds, it comes around the island a little bit and follows it. I can get some swell today. There was some south to southwest winds, and it was coming in here a little bit. Not too bad, but nevertheless, it's a little bit vulnerable to winds from the south and even to the south-southwest. So right now, most of the winds are going to be west or southwest, so I should be generally okay. It's just not good weather. The weather is just really weird. It's cold. Right now, it's 50. Well, the sun's out now, so it's warmed up. It was 56. Now it's 58. But that's outside temperature in July. And I mean, I'm in the evening. It's usually the warmer part of the day, later afternoon. Very unusual for these temperatures. And water temperature, when I checked this morning, was 45 degrees. It did warm up later, almost up into the 50s, but it was very cold in here when I came in this morning. So the really weird water temperatures, weird air temperatures for July, and the weather is very squally. It's not a kind of weather that you would normally see or expect. You expect thunderstorms, but there's been no thunder or lightning today. It's just been squalls that have come through. That's more like October weather. There has been sun though, so it's been interspersed with sunnier weather. Overall, it's just been really weird. So I've been doing a lot of listening to audiobooks, made dinner, grilled chicken, salad, roll, and potatoes with that, and white wine. That was really good. Fortunately, the wind wasn't blowing too strong, so I was able to get the grill to work pretty well. So I haven't been able to relax outside too much because it kept raining all the time and chased me inside. And I flew the drone a little bit, like I said, but that didn't last long. I only got one flight in, and that was aborted early because of the rain. I mean, when I took off, I didn't see anything around. I thought I was good, and then all of a sudden, bang, here's this rain coming pouring down. So And that's kind of been the case. It's been surprising me over and over again through the day. It just moves in really fast, and then bang, it's gone. Hopefully things will improve. We'll watch closely to see if I can move tomorrow, but right now it doesn't look very good. I've got enough latitude to take a day. I think I've got 4 legs to go to get back to the marina. That's on the planning part of it. And I've got 6 days, at least 6 days to do that. So I've got time. Spend an extra day here and maybe another extra day. And it looks like I may need that because the weather is just not cooperating. First half of the trip, I was moving almost every day, calm winds, flat seas, no problem. In the last 6 to 7 days now, maybe 6 days, it's just been squally, it's been stormy, it's been windy, it's been unpredictable, and very few times where I can move. And I have a cutoff of about 10 miles an hour. If it gets anything over that, I don't go. And I try to watch the length of time, because the waves, if the wind, like yesterday, the wind blew at 30 miles an hour. I don't think the swells went down until well into today, maybe in the afternoon. It finally started calming down. Those swells were carried over from that wind yesterday. So just because it's calm right now doesn't mean that there's no swells. So I've got to be careful about that, especially the direction of the swell. It's okay if I go with it or against it, but not when you have a side roll. You don't want that. It's a kind of a little game of chess in terms of when I go and how I go, and I've got to watch the winds really closely on this lake. It's just, this boat is not designed for this lake, and I'm sure people would say, well, what are you doing there? Well, it's a challenge, so you do it knowing that you got to be really careful. So I've been careful, but you always wonder, okay, how long is that going to hold out? So far it's worked out, and I'm hoping that it continues. We'll keep going. I don't have too far to go anymore, miles wise. I forget the distance here, but probably 40 miles to go. But it just, and that's not a long distance. It's just they've got to have the weather to do it. So we'll see how that goes. We'll keep you tuned in and talk to you maybe tomorrow. Have a good night.